Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the MSCC Bridging Access Gaps, Enabling Collaborations with CI panel discussion. My name is Leslie Jones, and I am the Director of Program Development for the MSCC. MSCC, for those of you who are not aware, stands for Minority Serving Cyber Infrastructure Consortium. It's kind of a long title, and on the next slide, we'll talk about what that encompasses. So the vision for MSCC is, the idea is that we will engage as full contributors to the global R&E community. Sounds like a lofty goal, and it is, but it encompasses several things. So one of the things that we focus on, if you look at our vision statement, it's two big things. First, MSCC envisions a transformational partnership to promote advanced cyber infrastructure capabilities at minority-serving institutions, specifically with a focus on historically Black colleges and universities and tribal colleges and universities. We will learn and grow as a consortium, lifting up all participating institutions by advancing cyber infrastructure for research and education across diverse fields. So it's a collaborative approach to making sure that all of those institutions that are involved are working together to support all institutions that are involved. As you know, if you work in higher education or are familiar with higher education, our institutions are not all at the same place at the same time. And so the idea is to bring experts across the board together to collaborate, to teach those who are not as adept in some of the other areas, and to bring expertise to them. So everyone is lifting together. The idea behind this is that MSCC wants to create a community that is focused on eliminating barriers to access to jobs for students when they graduate, access to research and funding, and access to information. Barriers can include information, a skill set that's involved in order to advance the cyber infrastructure on the campuses, and most definitely funding. Our guiding principles: inclusion, innovation, and stakeholder value. I don't want to read the whole slide to you, but I am going to go over this one because I think it's important. The MSCC purpose is to increase access to cyber infrastructure capabilities across academic disciplines, to enhance communication between researchers, IT professionals, campus leadership, and between institutional members. Support IT for research-enabled professional and career development, collective advocacy and partnerships. And again, collective advocacy and partnerships because our focus is on being a consortium. MSCC stakeholders are researchers, educators, and students, IT and CI professionals, campus leadership, industry partners, foundations, and funding agencies. The MSCC is guided by our consortium leadership board, which consists of leaders from colleges across the country, specifically HBCUs and tribal colleges, along with an R1, Clemson University, and our MSCC PI, who's from Internet 2. So our board is very diverse and has a wide amount of experience to bring to the table to support the goals that we have as the MSCC. The program that we're going to be discussing today is funded by NSF Award. The NSF Award has an objective of significantly increasing and accelerating cyber infrastructure-centric research capacity at MSCC campuses through a set of new approaches from which we can then learn and potentially frame a repeatable, successful model for cyber infrastructure implementations on the campuses of minority-serving institutions. So our panel is going to be discussing what that process looks like for us. We have what we call a POCG program, a proof of concept grant program, and it's represented by our panel that's up here today that will explain what that process looks like, how they got involved in the process. There was a competitive grant application process that they all engaged in for their institutions. We had an outside team come in and evaluate the grants to make sure that the process was something that was fair and was something that could be implemented. And so they're going to go ahead and they're going to explain to you how that's working, where they started from, the direction that they're going in. These are the schools that are participating in our POCG grants: Jackson State University, Claflin University, North Carolina A&T State University, Salish Kootenai College, and then we have a consortium of HBCUs that are located in Nashville, Tennessee State University, American Baptist College, Meharry Medical School, and Fisk University. One thing that I do want to point out is that all of these schools are very, very different. I think a lot of people sometimes assume if it's a TCU that they're all the same, which is not the case. And if they're HBCUs, they're the same, which is not the case. If you look specifically at the schools that are located in Nashville, they are all very distinctly different HBCUs. One is a professional school, it's a medical college. Fisk University is a small liberal arts college, which does have a strong STEM program. Tennessee State University is an R2 HBCU, and then you have American Baptist College, which is small. It's not necessarily a STEM-focused school. You can tell by its name, has the word Baptist in it, that it does have a religious emphasis in what it does. But we're still working together to bring all of these schools together and increase their cyber infrastructure, despite all the differences that they have. MSCC sincerely appreciates the support from Dale Smith from the Network Startup Research Center. All right, Jennifer and Russell, my colleagues, are going to come up and take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our session. I'm Russell Hoffman. I'm the Cyber Infrastructure Facilitator for the Minority Serving Cyber Infrastructure Consortium, and I'll be moderating our panel here today. And we actually have quite a few of our MSCC staffers here. Larry Long, Sarah Ally, Lanika Starks, and Jennifer Kim, who, while we're going through this panel, will be walking around and handing out the mic should you have any questions. In terms of format, we would like to be interactive. We have prepared questions, of course, but if you have anything you'd like to ask, just raise your hand and we'll make sure that you can ask your question. All right, so our panelists who have been nice enough to come all the way out to Chicago in less than fantastic weather are here today. And if you could, each introduce yourself, starting with you, Tom. Introduce yourself, your campus role, and explain why is participating in this proof of concept grant program timely for your campus.
So good afternoon, my name is Tom Jackson. Can you hear?
Get a little closer.
Can you hear? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. My name is Tom Jackson, Vice Chancellor for Information Technology, North Carolina A&T State University. The POCG grant is very timely because North Carolina A&T, although we have been very successful in developing cyber infrastructure on our campus and have a very active research program, we nevertheless face a lot of the same issues other universities face in terms of governance around research technology, supporting and securing that technology, et cetera. So the POCG grant enabled us to begin having the kind of conversations with faculty that we have to move forward in a more collaborative fashion and ensure that we can continue to be successful as new regulations and requirements for security come down the line.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, come on now, a little bit louder. I'm from the South. You got to say it right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, my name is Deborah Dent, and I'm from Jackson State University, and I am the Chief Information Officer. And so how is this timely for us? We look at participating in the POCG as being a natural progression from some of the previous work we were doing. We first got involved with a CC Star opportunity where we were able to enhance our campus cyber infrastructure with equipment and network equipment and everything. But what we were missing is that people resources. So this was just right. Before we had, we call him Jim Bottom, we call him my godfather. He was working with us, and we were able, when this came up, we were able to just keep moving and start moving our campus forward. So this was just perfect timing. It goes along with our campus strategic plan. So that's all I'm going to say right now, because they only gave me a minute, and he took a minute and a half. Okay.
And now I have 10 seconds.
That's right.
My name's Al Anderson. I'm the CIO at Salish Kootenai College. We're a tribal college in northwest Montana. I was going to kind of talk about specific POCG, but just to bring it back to the people, Deb already mentioned Jim Bottom. Jim was involved with AHEC, American Indian Higher Ed Consortium, which is the consortium group for tribal colleges. And Dale was also, still is involved with AHEC. And through those two gentlemen, they kind of, I think Jim was involved pretty heavily early on with MSCC's development. And being involved with AHEC, he brought to the table that maybe a TCU should be involved or TCU should be involved. And that's how I personally got kind of looped into it. And it worked out for our campus because we had just developed 2 master's programs, which are brand new for us doing graduate programs, and now we have this expectation of doing research and such. And we need to have the infrastructure to support faculty doing that and students doing that, so it was very timely for us.
Thank you. So a two-parter, but only one person needs to answer the first part. So what is the unique strategic value of cyber infrastructure versus more generalized IT resources that you support on your campus? And also, what is or why is it IT's role to support campus cyber infrastructure development?
So North Carolina A&T is somewhat unique among HBCUs. We have been very successful for a long time in developing cyber infrastructure. We have a number of high-performance systems on our campus, a number of clusters. And for many years, our research awards hovered around the $60 to $65 million year mark, per year mark. Part of our strategic plan, we are a land-grant university, so a part of our mission is conducting research to solve the problems of our community and of the nation. And as a part of our strategic plan, we have committed to developing our research portfolio significantly, and we've been very successful in doing so. So I can't tell our faculty how to do this because they've been doing it for a long time. What I can do is help our faculty understand the dangers that we face in the modern internet world, how risky some parts of the internet can be, how invasive some organizations on the internet are, and work with them to better secure and defend our research platforms and the data that they store, and also prepare for the emerging requirements that are coming from the federal government through various grant agencies. So in my mind, this has got to be a partnership, and I'm trying to partner with faculty who have already been very successful. So I have to help them understand why I am suddenly trying to pay attention to them and why it's important that they should pay attention to me.
You want all of us to answer?
If you'd like to give an answer.
Okay. Well, the first thing we had to do was, on our campus, we've had research for a while. We're an R2 institution. But our problem was that we have a lot of silos, and everybody was doing their own research. And as I said earlier, we were still missing resources, that human resources. So with what we're doing here and how we're being strategic here is that we're pushing towards an enterprise cyber infrastructure so that everything can be more scalable. So that's what we're working on, that it's scalable across the campus, and we're not just restrictive to the typical STEM. We're spreading it across the non-STEM areas. We have health sciences. So by doing this, we're able to strategically be more scalable, provide more specialized capabilities, and provide collaboration and encourage them to collaborate. So we've been able to break that barrier that they are now talk to us, and so now we got to keep that collaboration going.
So we have a similar thing going on. We actually had research going on for many years. SKC's been pretty successful with getting NSF grants that do different things, but like Deb just said, it was all siloed. We didn't, a lot of people, even administration, didn't necessarily know what was all going on. And once we got involved with MSCC, and SKC was able to hire a part-time CI facilitator, and he started going out and talking, and we're going, oh my gosh, we're doing this and that, but they're doing things like the way they shouldn't be doing it, storing data on private Google Drives and just crazy stuff. And so it's opening up that conversation to say, there's a better way to do this, and we want to help you do that. So it's developing the partnership, but it's also using kind of me, because tribal colleges are small, but I'm becoming the conduit to connect them to these larger communities like Internet 2 and those different research communities that are more on the CI side of things. So it's really building the bridges that we're trying to do.
Thank you. And for context, the Proof of Concept Grant program is still pretty young, and not everyone has started at the same time. Jackson State has probably been going the longest, and they're reaching about the 1 year point now within the program. So with that in mind, what challenges has the POCG program been able to help address, and how has your participation informed campus plans for what lies ahead? Okay.
So for the challenges, we, as I said earlier, we were siloed. So we did not have the resources, the people resources. So the first thing is that the POCG has a team called the Tiger Team, which is experts from like our fearless leader right there, and we just have experts from Internet 2 that will come and they evaluated everything that we had going on. They had a challenge coming into our campus because our campus, my IT team was not trustworthy at first, because in their heads, they were doing everything right, and who are these strangers that are gonna come in and tell us what to do with our network? So, and our team working with them, they've been able to communicate with them. We're finally breaking those barriers down, and so we're able to proceed in getting our network configured the way that it should be configured so that we can be truly that enterprise system that we need to. And then the other thing that we were able to do is when we had our kickoff and we invited the entire leadership team, Internet 2, everybody came to our campus. And what we did is one thing that they said earlier is when you want to get students involved, you serve them food, right? So we wanted to get the faculty involved. So we served a big lunch. We had a luncheon, and they all showed up, all the way from the science side to the business to the liberal arts. They all came. And they were able to listen, and they had ideas, especially the business. They were going like, oh, I see what we can do. We can create this great portal. So they all have these ideas. And then last but not least, we were able to hire our CI facilitator. So Russell and our CI facilitator have been going around talking to them. So there's some action going there, and we can see success on the horizon.
I think the one challenge that, I'll bring up a real specific one that we've been able to recently do is our CUI facilitator has been working with the folks out at University of Wisconsin to get Jupyter notebooks available on the web. And so we have one instructor that's teaching Python, and we have another one that's doing RStudio kind of stuff. And those are meeting particular needs where we don't have to have labs set up and all this kind of stuff to help those students out. And that's was a challenge before, just in terms of management. So that's like a real specific challenge that we've just recently addressed.
And so for me, E&T was later starting our POCG grant, so we're not as far along. But we did leverage the opportunity to bring a Tiger team to campus to begin the conversations with our faculty and collect some data, which rolled into a report and will be the springboard for additional conversations with our faculty.
And you all have kind of touched on this a little bit, and Dr. Dent has shared her strategy. But what value propositions are you communicating to get faculty buy-in to participate in coordinated CI development? Besides lunches.
Besides lunches. Okay, well, we're telling them here we have this capability that you're going to be able to utilize. There's collaboration, and that you're going to be able to take part in a bigger platform. You're going to be able to participate with the way that the world is going now. Research is really just taking off. And by them participating in this, they will have the resources that they need, and they can focus some of the other things, what they've been focusing on in the past with buying computers and everything. They don't have to worry about that. So if we have our platform in place and they utilize us, then they can do their processing and scalability. They can scale out. Is that okay? You need more? Come on, guys.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, in terms of, it's the access to resources, but not just the access to resources, but actually letting them drive what their needs are. I think for our campus, sometimes people get a little bit too caught up in that IT is, you know, we make all the policies and we enforce them and all those kind of things, and we're trying to get past that and say, no, we're here to be partners and we're here to listen and help you do what you need to be doing in your research and then the education of these students. And for our faculty, that's probably a new thing for them, and opening it up that we're going to sit at the table and IT is going to listen and then figure out how to solve this problem or help you enhance your program or whatever that discussion is.
So I would say, you know, for me, my situation is a little bit different. We already have a lot of infrastructure on our campus. For me, the value proposition is letting our faculty communicate with members of the Tiger team, letting them hear some of the same things that I've been trying to say to them from resources off my campus. There's an old definition that an expert is somebody from 100 miles away with a briefcase. And so having somebody come from another school across the country, or 2 or 3 people from other schools, and say similar things is very important. It reinforces what we're trying to say to our faculty. So that hand in hand with some of the work that we've been trying to do to work with people who are more willing to work with us out of the gate just gives us an opportunity to springboard into greater conversation.
So hopefully this has given you some background on what we're doing with the POCG program and kind of where we're at. Coming to the close on the first year for a lot of these activities. But I'd like to open up to questions in terms of what activities we've engaged in, or a few questions about what challenges we faced or solutions that we found that maybe could be helpful to other institutions. And I know I'm going to pick on Jennifer because I know she has a question waiting.
All right, I'll start off as people are thinking here. So how have other MSCC community programming and engagement opportunities contributed to your work as a POCG campus? And what opportunities would you most recommend to others?
So the MSCC is a very young organization. We've been very busy. We have developed some communities of practice. I'm not sure I'm using the right term, but that's essentially what they are. So we have a cybersecurity group, for example, that meets and membership extends across several different campuses, and that group has been particularly active, or people on my campus have been particularly active in the cybersecurity group. We've also done some workshops on various campuses that has allowed people to come in from across the state, in my case, and I think in others to discuss cyber infrastructure, what it means, how we work together, et cetera. So those are really the two things that stand out in my mind. We've also had some conferences and other events, but those, the cybersecurity special interest group and the workshops that we've done that really stand out to me.
We have monthly meetings where we invite anybody that wants to participate, and we have special guests that will come in and speak at those monthly meetings. And so we're able to find out more information about what's out there. So you don't have to wait to go to a conference to talk to like a vendor or somebody that's leading in that community. So, and then also at those monthly meetings, we give everybody a chance to ask questions, and that way we can share our vision, and then we invite more than, there are other partners in there that come in, and so it's not just the HBCUs and the TCUs, we have other partners in there. Because I'm excited that my partner, one of my best partners is my buddy right over there from USM. You know, so he's in there, and what it has done is it's caused us to collaborate on other issues also. So it's opened up the doors that our team, our network team, can talk to his network team. So that's another advantage of it.
I would say that's probably one of the less programmed kind of aspects of the MSCC is the personal connections that are getting formed and enhancing the different institutions' ability to access kind of these national resources. And that includes coming and being present at things like this kind of conference here and actually getting to know people, like personally know people, so that if you have a question or you have an idea or you have a faculty researcher, you can know how to form those connections, because that's what you all do. But a lot of the MSIs have not had that kind of access out there, and that's what we're trying to help them develop is that network in the larger context of things.
And I should add, you don't have to be from an HBCU or a TCU to join the MSCC's monthly meetings or engage in our communities of practice. You just have to go to the ms-cc.org and register as a participant, and we'll add you to our invite list. And you can come be a fly on the wall if you'd like, or frequently in our communities of practice, we reach out to the community to share expertise, which may be an opportunity for you to showcase something that maybe you have experience with as well.
Don't know if this is, yeah, this is on, hi. A question for Dr. Dent. If you could elaborate just a little bit on the Tiger team visits, the types of teams. It sounds like you're kind of first out of the gate in being the trial for a model that I think will either be proven out, you know, right over these phases or not. And I just was curious about your opinion on that. And if you could share with the audience briefly what types of Tiger teams have visited. And then I think maybe the second part of this question might be for Russell, but it's more a question for those that are organizing and running the Tiger teams. I'm just curious if in some of the initial engagements, if the members of the Tiger teams are on an incremental kind of experiential learning curve themselves, and not to lead you into the answer, but one might expect their efforts to get more effective over time, having lessons learned on each campus visit. I'll just stop there.
Okay, so the Tiger teams, they're here, so I'm going to just give them a praise right now. Just, you know, they've just been fantastic. And that they were able to help us because before the Tiger teams came on board, we were utilizing our own internal expertise. And in fact, I mentioned earlier, we had a CC STAR grant that we said, well, we want to do this. We wanted to, there were several things that we were going to do. We were going to enhance our research network, and there was a whole list. So when the Tiger team came, they re-evaluated our network. And the first thing they saw is that our network was set up in such a way that we were enabling the campus to stay as silos. Because we fulfilled our CC STAR, but we only did it with just the people that were part of that CC STAR. So we didn't make it enterprise. So they came in, and right now they're helping us to reconfigure our network. They're going in and looking at, there were parts that we did not have working correctly. We were always bragging about Edgerone. We wanted Edgerone. We wanted Edgerone. And I tell everybody this little secret that I used to have. So I would travel places, and I know, like, I'll say, I'm a member of Internet too. You know, I should have Edgerone and all of that. But my Edgerone didn't work properly. So I didn't want anybody else to know that, right? So I always had a hotspot hid in my briefcase, right? So when everybody would sit down and they would log on, I'd log on too. But they didn't know that my Edgerone was not functioning properly. It was installed, but it just was not. And my team, no matter what they did, they just couldn't figure it out. Tiger team came in, thank you, Jennifer, just came in and, oh, you just have this wrong, you know, just a little check mark and stuff. So it's things like that that they're coming in, they're talking to the guys. I said earlier, the guys had a wall up because they were nervous, but they've lowered that wall down. So we've been able to find out best practices because they had a practice that they were doing, but it wasn't the best practice. So now they've opened the door that they're able to see best practices. And now my next step is to get them to be more involved. My next goal is to have them fill the back row here so that they can see things firsthand. So that Tiger team has really made a tremendous difference because I don't think we would be near about where we are now if it wasn't for the Tiger team. Did I answer all three parts of your question? Okay.
Can I say one thing? So we haven't directly used the formal Tiger teams, but I think with Jennifer that we've done a couple, and Russell, we've done some more informal things where they've almost put together like ad hoc Tiger teams for us. One of the things we just recently did was we realized we need to set up research data for our faculty and huge amounts of it. And so we've had already several calls where they brought in experts from this community to talk with us and help us decide what we need. So I'm working on a proposal. It's for the teacup and NSF, but it informed me of where I need to go, what I'm needing to ask for. And I think that's something that we're going to have to look at as having that ability more formalized in terms of ad hoc Tiger teams, that's something that we can do. And you guys did such a good job of organizing it, and thank you.
Yeah. So one thing to know is, or I guess to consider, is going into the POCG programs, I guess we didn't have a surefire idea of what's going to work for every campus. And if anyone said that they did know that going in, they were probably lying to you or just not involved enough to know. So in some ways, this first cohort of POCG campuses has really been an experiment for us in testing a model of supporting campuses in really diverse cyber infrastructure environments and needs. I mean, one of the things to consider with campuses that have historic underfunding is that for a long time, people are just getting by with what they have. And they haven't had a long culture of having cyber infrastructure planning that their campuses have been built upon, because of course if they did, then they wouldn't be under-resourced institutions. So every campus we go to so far has been different, with different challenges in terms of infrastructure, with different priorities in terms of what their faculty are doing. So the process really has been to come in not with solutions already in mind, because we don't know those, and learning from the people on the ground, the faculty, the CIOs, what's the current status of what they work with and what their goals are. And our Tiger team members, two of them are here, John and Tim, John Hicks and Tim Middlecoop, and formerly Dale Smith, which is why we were recognizing him in the presentation. And they've been extraordinarily helpful in sharing their expertise with the campuses when and where they need to. And I guess in terms of lessons, we are trying to find more scalable lessons from the first cohort of POCGs that hopefully will make an impact for future POCG recipients in the future. So thank you for being our test cases.
And I want to add one more thing. Okay, we have one Tiger team member, Lauren McMike. She's not here with us right now, but she did something even different in that she first pushed a student aspect to it, and so she was pushing that we include our students in. And the second thing is that she was at a PERT conference, and she was bragging on the Tiger team and bragging on the MSCC, I can't even say it right. And so while she was doing that, she was talking to the director of the High Performance Computing Center at Mississippi State University. And she started bragging, saying, Jackson State's about to have their own high performance computing capability. And before I know it, Mike was calling me, I need to talk to you, I need to talk to you, hold up. And so since then, we talk once a week, right? And he's saying, how can we collaborate together? So we're going to do our first conference at the end of March, and it's going to be sponsored by Mississippi State University and Jackson State University, and we're inviting all of the schools from Mississippi to participate. And this was all because of Lauren, so we can give her credit for that.
Yeah, our POCG program would not be where it is today if we didn't have Lauren Michael, who just recently left Internet 2.
And y'all was supposed to clap when we said that we could have our first one. Let's hear a hand. All right, good. I was waiting for a big, like, hey. Okay.
Through the interactions, have you been able to enable and facilitate some collaboration opportunities between the researchers?
Yes.
So, Russell, if you need to step in and correct me, please do. We have, in fact, we do have the collaboration with the schools in Tennessee, for example. We also have some other collaborations that have occurred from researchers who were engaged through some of our regional workshops. And then more recently, we got a sub-award for climactic research that involves several of our campuses and the faculty and students on those campuses who will be working together on various aspects of the research. So ultimately, yes. And I hope I said all that correctly.
Yeah, one of our activities through the MSCC, through our first award, the PCOE grant, we're doing a lot of workshops around the country. We have been for over a year and a half now. Our next one is coming up at Prairie View A&M. But these workshops, we typically bring together campuses, HBCUs or TCUs, regionally to talk about cyber infrastructure, the strategic value that it has for their campus and their faculty members. And at these workshops, we typically get really great engagement between CIOs and faculty from across their region. And I think at just about every one, people have been trying to figure out how to keep in touch and push together their cyber infrastructure together. I think something a lot of folks have realized is they need to share knowledge between each other in terms of how they get cyber infrastructure developed on their campus, as well as utilize their regional resources, such as their RENs for planning things like network upgrades or a CC Star networking proposal, as well as leaning on I guess their neighbors who are sometimes better resourced either at the larger mainstream institutions or even among HBCUs and TCUs who are better resourced than others. And I suppose more concretely on individual cyber infrastructure upgrades, we've certainly had faculty members interested in collaborating with each other in order to establish new cyber infrastructure solutions on campus, whether it's planning a computing facility or trying to get access to accessible scientific notebooks like the Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Hub that is accessible now on Salish Kootenai College's campus.
And there's one more thing where we mentioned, I mentioned earlier the student. So at our annual conference, we were able to have a hackathon, and this brought together, this was teaching them at an early age, right, that they were competing against each other. But these students, thanks to Tenny, I can't say Tenny's last name right now, having a singer moment, but Tenny brought them together. And so these students were able to meet each other. So at an early age, they were able to connect and they were able to network with each other. So we're hoping that this was like a basic skill of teaching them not only about programming and everything, but about collaborating, and that the other team was not the enemy, is that they were learning from each other.
So, as has been noted a few times now, you know, no two institutions in the MSI community are exactly alike. And I know there's still a great deal of work to be done in this pilot, but I'm curious as to, in your experience so far, what are you seeing as both the biggest challenges to trying to sort of scale up this effort more broadly across the MSI community, and what you're seeing as perhaps some of the best tools or opportunities to be able to successfully implement some of these lessons learned on a bigger scale?
Your turn.
I think I'll let somebody else address the challenges part of it, but I think a big lesson that we're learning is we need to leverage the larger community that already exists. We just need to figure out how to get connected to that and get the people connected. And that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this right now. That's why Internet 2s is supporting this, is to form those connections and leverage what's already there. We don't need to reinvent anything. We just need to connect the schools to it. And, you know, in a lot of our cases there needs to be some, you know, human resource help. You know, Deb's mentioned it a couple times. We are more personnel constrained than most schools. I know every school is personnel constrained, but we're more so. Like in some schools where you have an IT department that's 150 people, where in some tribal colleges, it's 2 people. So, but they have the same requirements, same challenges, all those things. So that's the other aspect of it that we're going to have to figure out is how do we get those people resources to help them make those, meet those needs that they have.
I think I would say in terms of challenges, and I'm not sure this really answers your question. I think one of the challenges for HBCUs and TCUs in general is that, especially the smaller ones, is that we have historically been very isolated and had to really, or chose to really work within ourselves. And in my mind, the MSCC, collaborative is part of the title. And building those relationships and putting people together and facilitating communication is the most powerful way, I think, of overcoming that barrier. People in higher education seem to mostly have a natural inclination to want to work with other people and cooperate and share, and that's probably one of the things that's most attractive about our industry, if you'll pardon the use of the word, because we don't have necessarily the same type of competitive basis private industry does. And so I myself have been in higher education for 34 years, and I'm fortunate that I was part of a system that began collaborating nearly 40 years ago. And that was a very organic process that has led to, in the last 20 years, a much more structured, formal type of collaboration. But a lot of institutions have not had that until recently. And so I think perhaps one of the most powerful things about the MSCC is the ability to bring organizations together and put people in contact and let them find ways to work together. But I would also agree with Al. I think resources have always been the major issue, one of the major issues that small institutions face. And having been in a small institution with an IT staff of 13, I can relate. 13 is actually large in some situations. So.
And again, we said resources. And we've already pointed out that people resources was part, but sometimes it's even those physical resources. But what this is doing is it's making us aware that we don't have to have those resources on our campus, right? And there's access. NSF has so many resources, right? But we just have to, it's awareness. We have to train, especially the new faculty members that come in, because sometimes the older researchers don't share that information with the younger ones. So now we can have that platform that we can share with them that, okay, you can use this resource from NSF, or you can go to NRP and use their resources. So that's not only people, but also the computing resources that they need.
And outside of the staffing constraints at HBCUs and TCUs, at least from my experience working with tribal colleges and universities, which I did at the American Indian Higher Education Consortium before joining the MSCC, there's typically almost not enough faculty to go around at the institutions. Oftentimes they're teaching what I would consider an overload of courses. And then some of them are motivated enough to do research activities on top of that. And then for those motivated faculty, it's a challenge for them if they want to keep engaging in research and bring, I would say, more modernized techniques to their students, and they have to go out and learn and do training, or they need to do some kind of a internship at a facility that has access to resources and people to train them, can be a challenge because oftentimes they can't do things like course buyout to go spend a semester learning a new skill just because there's nobody to fill their position if they're gone, which means students are going to graduate a semester late if it's for a required course in their program. So this poses an additional challenge of how do you get accessible training to faculty who want to learn new skills in a way where they can actually engage with it.
I'll make a comment since Dr. Dent kind of mentioned me anyway, but in the state of Mississippi, the CIOs, all the CIOs for all the institutions meet once a month. Now, Dr. Dent and I didn't start it, but it happened probably over a decade ago. And getting those personal relationships have made a difference in a lot of HBCUs and the smaller colleges. I'm the CIO at the third largest enrollment, but there's been at least 3 times where when we first started our Mississippi Optical Network, there was one institution that didn't have a router big enough to do 10 gigs. We were decommissioning one, so we gave it to them. And it's happened more than once. We had a different school call me up one time. The CIO said, our network is down. We need a piece of hardware to get us past a few days while ours get fixed. And they came down, picked it up, and took it back to the school, and everything was up. Actually just gave it to them because it was something that was on our shelf as a backup. So you can't underestimate the personal relationships you could make. And Dr. Dent and I will get on panels. We'll invite each other to different panels. We've done it how many times? A dozen. So get in touch with your bigger schools. Get to know the CIO, whatever level you are, and make friends and make things happen. We do it.
Another one from me. So we talked about CI facilitation a little bit, but do you have any recommendations in engaging with faculty to facilitate the discovery of what needs that may exist on your campus that perhaps are not being communicated to the IT departments?
Is this a question for me?
I would pose it to the panelists.
Could you repeat the question?
Could you repeat the question, Jennifer?
Sure. So on your campuses, I guess, do you have any recommendations in what has worked in engaging with faculty to facilitate the discovery of what their needs are?
Well, I will simply say there is no single solution. Faculty are individuals, and they face a lot of pressures and demands on their time, and talking to the CIO is not very high on their list of priorities. So I think you take the classic steps. So you look for people who are early adopters who are interested in talking to you, who perhaps have a need that you can perhaps meet, and you get some early wins and build upon the success to reach out to other people, and you try to be responsive and attentive and help them understand you're there to ultimately and really to help if you can, and try not to stand in their way if you can't.
So one thing that I've discovered is that CI facilitator. They've been critical in that they have the skill set that they can speak the language of the faculties, along with the language of IT, because we have a totally different language. In fact, when I was in my Ph.D. program, my computer programming class is counted as my foreign language requirement, right? So that CI facilitator, when you get your CI facilitator, they're key to being able to interact with the faculty and to bring the faculty on board so that we can help with our getting our message out and getting them to work with us and collaborate. So it's that CI facilitator is a good usage.
I think for our campus, one of the things, I mean, the CI facilitator that we have is certainly a super important thing, but I think having something to show faculty that you've engaged already a little bit, and like I can specifically talk to those Jupyter notebooks. When we showed the one faculty having our studio where they can just open up a browser, click on a link that is set up, and then this our studio just opens up right in the browser, and they're like, so a student just signs in with their Google account, and we're like, yeah, that's all they got to do. So having that hard thing to show them that there's already this little success that you can engage with right now. Now that faculty is an early adopter, and they're going to be on board, and they're going to go back to their area, and they're going to talk about, hey, this is working, and my students are getting excited because they can do this in their pajamas at home, and that spurs other people to come over and talk and figure out what other toys that we might have that they could use.
And I should say, you don't have to be an expert in CI facilitation to go and talk to faculty to see what they want to do. I mean, you don't have to be like a technical expert either. You just have to be able to go out and talk to the people that you're trying to serve and see what their interests are, and what they're doing on campus, and what technology they're currently engaging with, and what is it that they wish they could be doing. And that's often enough information to start planning what changes you can make on campus to benefit them and help them reach their goals. And we're just about running out of time, so unless someone has a 45-second or so question, I think we're just about wrapped up. Thank you, panelists. It was great to have you.